Okay, hi everyone, I am Fernando and today I'm going to talk you about the listening part in the TOEFL IBT test. First, in this section is to measure your ability to understand conversations and lectures in English. In the listening will be presented only once, it means you have only one chance to answer. After the conversation or lecture had appeared, candidates will answer the questions about it. There are some strategies. Meanwhile the tracks are played, candidates can take some notes about it in order to collect some of the information mentioned in the lecture or in the conversation. It will take you about 20 minutes each of the conversation. First, I'm going to focus in the part 1, understand the gist, understand the detail, and understand the function. Understand the gist. What is this? These questions are touched about to the overall idea of the passage as a whole. It means that you have to collect the general idea. In this kind of questions, they could ask you about the subject, topic, or the main idea. What is the purpose? Most part of the time, the main idea is given in the beginning of the track. How to identify the question? What is the subject of the passage? What is the topic of the discussion? What is the professor mainly discussing? What is the purpose? In that way, we can identify the question. Here we have an example. Why does the student go to see the advisor? Here we have a conversation where the student go to visit to the advisor. Here we have some of the relevant parts in the lecture. So we have to choose letter C. Why? Because it's talking about why this student in a general way wants to see the advisor. So as the answer, we have to learn about the requirement of her the major. Is the general idea of what is the passage talking about. So we have to choose as answer. The next one, understanding details, is a type of question and candidates need to look for some specific information that are stated in the passage. So we have to listen to the details and not only the general idea. How to identify the question? What is stated in the passage about? What is indicated passage about? According to the speaker, what does the professor say about? Why does the man suggest? How, when, where, did. So here we have the example. According to the professor, why was the Kyoto spacecraft mission significant? So we don't need to find the general idea, we need to focus on the detail that it was given in the passage. So we have the possible answers and we have choose letter B. It shows that comments contain a large amount of water. It's giving the detail of the main idea of why was the mission significant. In that case. The next one, we have understand the function. In this kind of question, candidate will be ask you about the function or the purpose of the speaker says. This type of question asks the candidates understand not just what the speaker says, but why the speaker says that. So, we have to pay attention of how the speaker wants to take or wants to say about the question. How to identify the question? Listen again to part of the passage. Why does the speaker say this? Why does the speaker mean? Why does the speaker imply? In that way, we have to pay attention of how the speaker is talking about. Here we have the example. We have the passage and we have the replay of the passage. We have listen again a part of the conversation, then answer the question. Professor Roberts, I have a question for you about the assignments. And the professor says, okay, it is a short question. So, when the teacher says that is a short question, it means what? What does the speakers want to say to the student? We have the possible answers. So, as we mentioned, if the short question wants to be focused on how the speakers want to reflect the feelings to the student. So, we have choose letter D. He doesn't have much time to answer the question. In that way, we understand that the teacher doesn't want to give a long explanation because he has other things to do. In that way, we have choose those part of the explanations. And this is the first part of the tutorial.
This part of the tutorial is focused on questions related to understand the speaker's stance, the organization of the passage, as well as the inferences and drawing conclusions. Let's begin with questions related to understand the speaker's stance. They are aimed to determine if the speaker feels impressed, enthusiastic, or bored about a particular topic. These questions are less common than other types of questions. Most passages do not have them, so from 0 to 1 question of this type is provided in the exam. Sometimes the part of the passage that indicates what the speaker says will be replayed. Identifying the question is simple. Like in the reading part, there are fixed patterns that help candidates to identify the type of question. To answer these items, it is important to pay special attention to the speaker's tone of voice and the choice of words. Let's see an example. In this case, no replay of the passage is provided, so the only clue for identification is the fixed pattern. In contrast, in this example, besides the pattern, part of the passage will be replayed. Now let's see how to answer the question. The first step is to identify the type of question through the fixed pattern. In this case, candidates do not listen to a replay of part of the passage, so they have to take note with her hand and check it. Let's listen to the audio to understand it better.
First of all, I'll be describing an Iroquois village. And then, for your assignment, I want you to draw one.
Excuse me, Dr. Thomas? You want us to draw an Iroquois village?
Yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. I think this will help you to understand the efficient simplicity of the design of an Iroquois village.
Voice is flat, so the choice of word will provide the answer. The professor states that Iroquois villages show efficient simplicity. Hence, the answer is letter B. Now let's talk about understand organization items. These questions are based on understanding the main points and how they are organized. While lectures are usually followed by one or two organization questions, conversations are not usually followed by them. The most common questions ask about the purpose of an example and how the passage is organized. Questions that ask candidates to arrange information in a chart are less common. To identify the type of question, candidates should recognize the fixed patterns. To answer this item, they have to pay attention to details and examples and think about how they are related to the whole passage. Finally, they have to look for organization of ideas like comparison, contrast, cause and effect, etc. Let's see some examples of this type of question. The first picture shows a fixed pattern that is useful to identify the question. On the other hand, this example shows a table in which candidates have to put in order the step of the fossilization process. Now let's see how to answer the question. The first step is to identify the type of question through the fixed pattern. Like in the previous question, candidates do not listen to a replay of part of the passage, so they have to take notes with her hand and check them. Let's listen to the audio to understand it better.
Now, one of Darrow's greatest skills was that he was an amazing orator who could sometimes move his audience to tears.
In this case, candidates have to pay attention to details in order to relate them to the whole passage. The speaker says that Darrow was able to move their audiences to tears, so the second answer is right. Now let's talk about the last type of question. To answer questions of inference and drawing conclusions, candidates have to pay attention to a wide number of ideas rather than a single detail. Like in the questions of inference from stated facts of the reading section, the information is not directly stated in the passage, so candidates should be careful with restatements and false information. This is the question. The first step is to identify it through the fixed pattern. In some cases, like in this example, a replay of part of the passage is listened. Now let's listen to the audio to understand it better.
Number 1. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
So, do you think you can help me with the new engineering problem set I emailed you yesterday?
That depends. Are you serious about wanting to learn the material for this assignment? Because the last time you were here...
The woman asked the man if he's serious about learning the material for the assignment. In the part of the passage that was not replayed but that must be written down, the man says that he's already prepared. It can be inferred that the last time the man was not prepared, so the second answer is correct. As conclusion of this video, it can be stated that the listening part of TOEFL exam assesses the ability to understand minor and major points. However, lots of information is given, so the key point to face this part of the exam is to adapt or adopt a method for taking notes. For further information, you can check the sources of this video.